Hey everyone, welcome to the Day 91 podcast. My name's Nathaniel. I'm your host and the founder of Day 91 Workplace Solutions. Today we are diving into the mailbox and I've got a good one for you here. Real quick, if you are new, welcome. That's what we're all about. Day 91 is the day that most companies' 90-day onboarding plan ends. The check-in stop, the buddy program wraps up, the new employee is suddenly kind of on their own. That's Day 91, the moment when the real culture of a company finally shows itself. So on this podcast, we'd like to dig into that. We have conversations with leaders, sometimes bring in guests, and we help solve real problems that real organizations are dealing with. So, all right, let's see what we got here. I'm going to take a look. I got this printed out. So I got a message from a leader who manages a team of about 25 people at a mid-sized company, and here is what they said. All right. Hey, Nathaniel, I run a team of about 25 people at a mid-sized company. We've been growing fast and hiring a lot over the last year. On paper, everything looks fine. Retention numbers are okay. Nobody's quitting. Productivity is decent. Something feels off, though, and I can't seem to put my finger on it. The energy is just flat. People show up, do their work, and leave. No one's going above and beyond anymore. And I used to have a team that felt alive. Now it just feels like everyone's going through the motions. I haven't changed anything, so what am I missing? Signed, my team is crazy. I don't think your team is crazy. I'll start off with that. So definitely thanks for submitting this in. A lot of readers listening right now are probably going to recognize themselves into this letter here, and here's my gut reaction, and it makes total sense. There's a lot going on behind the scenes that this leader cannot see right now. The numbers look fine on paper. Numbers are lying. It makes sense to why you're feeling this way. But the line that really got to me was this one here where it says, I haven't changed anything. And that's probably the problem if I had to do a guess. Because the team grew, the headcount grew, but the culture didn't grow with it. And that seems to be a big issue when it happens to teams that are growth. And growth is a good thing, I will say that. So don't say that, growth is a bad thing and that's the reason why. So growing is good, so don't worry. But what you basically worked when you were a smaller, tight-knit group doesn't automatically carry over to when you double in size. That small town feel that you had before, that's no longer in place. So imagine you have, a small town, let's say in rural Pennsylvania, and then all of a sudden you're inviting more and more people, and the way of the one grocery store doesn't work anymore because now you need multiple grocery stores because there's more people. So you need to modify your culture just like you would build up your town. So basically you have a small town that you're trying to build up a little bit. Here's a part that I actually find most alarming here. Nobody's quitting. Sounds good. Doesn't mean that's not. Productivity is good, I understand, but there's still something wrong here because when people stay and go quiet, that leads us to something called quiet quitting. Now, for those of you who have not heard of quiet quitting, it is basically when someone has emotionally checked out but hasn't physically left yet. So someone feels like they don't belong for some reason. They'll show up, they'll do the bare minimum that, if let's say you're doing a 5-star review, when you're doing at the end of the year, your evaluation, they're performing that meets expectations, that right 3 out of 5, where they won't get fired, but, they're still not really going above and beyond. They're not participating in meetings. They're just doing their daily quotas, making their quotas, and that's it. And that's not a good thing, So what seems to be going on is there are a lot of employees that are quiet quitting at this point. So a question I like to ask in these type of cases is to see if your employees are quiet quitting. I like to ask is when you look around your team, can you tell who's engaged and who's just showing up? I challenge any leader to kind of take a look at this point and try to see, is there someone who's just doing their work and not doing as great, maybe not as good as someone else, but just may not be as present as someone else. So I'm going to do this day 91 approach and dive in. So the day 91 approach is how I like to handle, finding problems like this. And it's not just like, I read this email and this is my ultimate conclusion, like I just did before with that little bit of a gut reaction to what's going on. But here's kind of how I would like to break it down using the day 91 method. Step one, starting with real curiosity. That's what I love to do first. So before I say a single word about what's wrong, before I say a single word about what's wrong, I'm sitting down with the leader and I'm asking questions. 1, how fast did the team grow? Was there a plan in place when the new employee came on, or did everyone just kind of figure it out? Was there a training program? What did the onboarding process look like? I want to know the real version, not the handbook version. Like, what does the onboarding program say within the first, 30 days? I don't want to see that. I just want to see what someone's actually doing, what's actually happening in their first month, and then their first month. So that's what I like to do first, is kind of do a really good breakdown. I then like to go ahead and see the full picture of things. So this is when I start asking for documentation. I will like to look for physical things about handbooks, processes that you have in place, stuff like that. That's always a good thing that I would like to look at. But most importantly, I'd like to start talking to the team. So not necessarily in a leadership only. I like to talk to leaders, employees, etc., etc. And I'll ask lots of questions, and not formal survey questions. I'll ask questions like, how are things going? Do you feel connected to the people around you? Do you know what this company actually stands for? When did things fall apart? And depending on those answers, I can try to draw some conclusions here. And these are things that you can do in yourself. These are questions that you can ask your employees physically. Be like, hey, I noticed you were really, active in these groups conversations that we've had the past few days. What's going on now? I don't understand. It seems that you're not as active and participating as much as you used to. Is there something going on? Are you having any problems, any struggles, et cetera, et cetera? So once I had that full picture, once you had that full picture, the good and the bad, I'd probably tell this manager that the culture that made their team great at a smaller size was never intentionally built for large size, which is what I said, that small town energy. So basically what I want to do is have everyone recommend to adjust your strategies here. Because this is not necessarily a people problem here. It's not a systems problem. It's just the system never accounted for growth. Growth is good. Like I mentioned before, growth is good. So for this team specifically, I'm not coming in with general, culture playbook. I'm going to build around something, around what they actually need. That probably starts with extending the onboarding experience. That's what I'd recommend first. Well past 90 days. This is a big thing that I see all the time, where people have a 90-day onboarding period, and then after that 90-day, that 91st day, is when everything goes crazy, and they just kind of drop off everything. Be like, okay, we went through the program, we did everything, all the presentations, the lunch and learns, the one-on-ones. You're on your own. Feel free to go ahead and do. But sometimes these employees may not be ready beyond those 90 days, or they seem to be doing fine, but they still need those check-ins, because a new employee is still a new employee for a year. I would definitely recommend assigning a buddy system. Those who were, maybe in this role for a few years before the new people came in. A good one-on-one training schedule. That's another good thing to do as well. And just kind of rebuilding that sense of connection at 25 at a team of 25 maybe than was maybe at 10 before. So recommendations only matter if they get used. So obviously everything I like to deliver is practical, clear, stuff like that. And and then at the end of the day is some human advice that I like to give here. I would give this leader, here's kind of what I would say. I would say basically your culture didn't disappear. It just never got built for the size that it is now. The team that felt alive is still there. They're not gone. You can still save the team here. They're kind of just waiting for someone to remind them that they matter. Maybe all the attention. It's like when you have a new sibling sometimes, when the new sibling comes in, the older sibling feels left out because all the attention's on the new one. That's important too. And just starts off with one honest conversation, not a town hall or a meeting or a culture initiative. Leave the pizza at home. Just you sitting down with your team one-on-one and asking how they're doing. And I'm going to quote Andrew Cuomo, who always came up with this thing that said, how are you doing really? How are you really doing? Like, feel free to ask, hey, how are things going? And then kind of give them the floor. Maybe ask them some follow-up questions. Being like, so what do you think about this transition of these new employees that are coming on? How have things been? Are they better? Are they worse? What are some things that I can do to kind of help you work this out, or help you improve your role, improve the job, stuff like that. That's what I would like to mainly do, and all that type of stuff, So that's basically the mailbox for today here, try to address, what's going on. I hope that this manager will be able to take these tips and realize it's not them as a manager, it's not them as an employee, you didn't do anything wrong. You just got to grow with it. Have some more team building events. Those are always fun to do. If you go to like Top Golf, golfing, bowling, going to the bar, I think it's always important to do that. Continuing to have one-on-ones. I'm sure if you have a team of 25, that's a lot to schedule weekly one-on-ones, but maybe try to make them monthly, bi-weekly, maybe a few a week. I also like to recommend at this point is when you try to establish team leads. So think of your most senior employees that you have on your team. Try to see if you can maybe promote them into a lead role where they're not necessarily, a manager per se, but they're kind of like leading everybody. So basically they are, maybe not necessarily improving time cards, but, being there to ask for those who are new to ask questions. It is a great way to grow your team. Your team will be happy to see that you have growth opportunities within it, to eventually take on your role, because I know you as a manager are going to want to go up to director or something else. Maybe not, but someone who could help you out. And it's good for those first line questions that might make you feel you feel a little bit too busy. Where you can be like, I can't answer all these questions all day. Even these senior folks who've been here for 3 years, I just don't have the time. I have to focus on these new people. We have to work on hiring, so these are some things I like to think about. Establishing team leads, 1 or 2, would be great, and then assign your specific team members to that team lead. It takes the weight off your shoulders. It's great, shows growth, and it helps the new employees. And then for those who are employees who may be still existing, they again see those growth opportunities in a way that they can kind of help and feel heard a little bit too. So that's about here. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn at nsietz, or head over to day91solutions.com. There's an inbox there for you to submit any questions that you may have, or if you want me to kind of check out your company, I'm happy to do any leadership trainings, some company evaluations, just to kind of see how things are going. I do get find it to be a lot of fun, so this is a great thing for me here. So I appreciate you for listening in, and I will see you on the next one. Remember, always choose the people.